I'm Catherine Wright with YTK Photography, and I'm here again with inkAID to show you some additional products and talk a little bit more about what you might want to use when, how to actually select pictures, what substrates to use, and what coatings. So we're going to go more into detail just to give you a better understanding of how to utilize this amazing product. Now, the wonderful thing about inkAID is you don't necessarily have to be a professional photographer or have a professional camera in order to have images to be able to use in this really unique way. I'm going to show you images that were taken with a professional SLR camera and some cell phone images, which actually you can do some really unique filters or editing techniques right on your camera and then produce some really interesting, stunning images using inkAID. So it just kind of adds another layer to it. This first image is from a professional shoot that I did, and you can see that it's kind of a pinup image. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each image and just kind of the qualities of the photograph and like what you might want to look for as far as your coating and your paper source. On this image, you know, it's a very crisp, and I think that anything that's dealing with portraits or people, you really want to maintain the detail. You know, unless it's like a particular vintage image that you're really trying to have some sort of distress to. But in this image, you know, one of the pre-coats that I would recommend is something that's going to be more crisp and using like a more solid base of your substrate. Now, substrate again is your paper source or whatever you're printing onto. It could also be paper, metal, wood, virtually whatever you can get through your printer. But we'll use that term throughout this, your substrate. So on this one, I would recommend like a more tight weave on your substrate, something that's a little bit more bound or put together. So for example, if you can use just a regular heavy cardstock, and the white matte pre-coat is one of my favorite pre-coats for inkAID. One, it really holds up the color. You know, the vibrancy in the actual pigments bounce on top of this even more because you have the super, super white base that makes everything more vivid. The other thing that I love about it is if you're using a foam brush or any kind of a bristle brush that's acrylic, something that's going to not like flake off on your paper, it really gives you some interesting brush strokes, which just kind of gives that handcrafted, one-of-a-kind feeling. So in addition to the white matte pre-coat, we also have other pre-coats that give you a different surface texture on your images. There's a semi-gloss, there's a gloss, you also have a clear matte. And think about those just like your regular household paints. What kind of a finish do you want on your wall is also going to give you the finish on your paper. So if you want something that's a little bit more glossy, you may want the gloss, you may want the pre-coat type 2, and those are all really great because they're more translucent. Now, something that can be really interesting to utilize those is to use a paper that has a little bit of a tooth on it as well. Now remember, you're going to look at the base color of your paper. If you buy a paper that's a little bit warmer, it's actually going to have a little bit more of a warmer cast on your print, which might look really interesting on something like this. The other thing to think about is, you know, how vibrant do you want your colors? So if you have a little bit of a warmer paper, it's actually going to shift your color slightly because again, you're just coating whatever paper you purchase, and that's going to make it receptive to take that ink. So, you know, watercolor paper can be absolutely gorgeous. A fine tooth hot press paper can be gorgeous, and it looks really nice for something like this. One thing that I love is to take just regular shots that really could be utilized in any way, like this beautiful abstract. It's just a really nice detail shot with great colors. The nice thing about an image like this is you can either hold up the detail or you can deconstruct it down. Now the nice thing about inkAID, in comparison to other alternative processes, is you actually keep most of the detail in your images unless you're doing some sort of a transfer where the pigment is getting switched onto another type of substrate. But in this image in particular, the colors are just gorgeous. So you can use some of the other pre-coats that I discussed, you know, just really kind of establishing whatever surface sheen you want on it. But then you can print on some really interesting fibrous papers like this, which is more of like a tissue paper, still very fibrous, but has a wonderful sheen to it. And the nice thing about this is because it's slightly opaque, the light can hit it, and it just really sets those colors off. Now again, you can select any of the inkAID pre-coats to use this that has some sort of translucence, so we're talking about the clear matte pre-coat, or the translucent gloss, or the semi-gloss, you know, so you just really kind of want to establish whatever surface sheen you want on it, just like you would buying photo paper. These images are some of my favorites. This image in particular was just shot at a restaurant on my cell phone, and I absolutely adore using self-phonography or iPhonography as a new phenomenon. Think about all of your images that you have on Instagram. What are you going to do with them? Well, the nice thing about when you start adding some antiquing directly to the image when you capture it is when it's produced, you actually have more of the vintage look anyways. And then combining inkAID with this, it allows you to take this to a whole other level. So you can be using a paper source like printing directly on fabric. This is something that I absolutely love. And this could be any of the pre-coats, and one that I love as well with this is to use the white matte, just because it sets up that color, it adds a little bit of a thicker base, and it can really transcend. Another great idea is to use another image just from the cell phone and to be able to put it on like a craft paper, you know, something really dark, and use the white pre-coat to set it off. You can use other types of fabric to be able to create these images, which really just give you a totally different dynamic and pure aesthetic for your images. What's so great about inkAID is that you really can transform any image regardless of where it was captured from. So from a professional grade camera to a cell phone, you can still create unique one-of-a-kind images with this process.